Hey, welcome to MK Ultra Experience. We've got a really good one today. Me and Cameron have been working on this one for a minute, and we've got one hell of a guest that's going to set a lot of things straight. And
He sets a lot of people straight. Let
yeah,
me tell you that.
yeah, and and that's what we all need. We all need that one person in our life, at least one person in our life, to
Hmm.
set the damn record straight.
Yeah, hold
Man,
up.
you guys are in trouble if I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as we know, there's so much disinformation. There's so much information out there, and you never know if it's truth or not. And there's so much AI involved, and so much now that you don't even know if you're looking at something real or not. And everything looks official. Nobody knows where to go to get the what's really going on. And
They need to have an AI filter on your phone. Your phone needs, like, Elon needs to come out with the X
something,
phone that's got a filter that tells you this is AI or this is real. And I
yeah.
mean,
You
yeah,
know, and get out of meme university. Everybody's been just reading headlines and memes, and that's the extent of our education as far as what's really going on, and so many different facets of our life. Everything from medications to government to what's just going on in our states and what they're doing with our kids, and so much.
yeah.
And so I'd like to welcome Tom Renz. And man, we're super stoked to have you on. And we can't wait to get into this.
Tom,
I,
well,
th-
the honor to have you on the show.
I thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys very much. It was awesome. For everybody watching, hey, I just got to spend some time with Cameron down in Scottsdale. It was a good time, and looking forward to getting back down there.
Dude, it was a blast having you out here. We met with some awesome people and talked about doing some really, really fun things, some really cool projects that are going to be beneficial for humanity. And yeah, just really, really excited about talking about these things with you, such an expert on these on what's going on in the world on so many different levels, especially in the medical world. For those of you that don't know, Tom was an absolute warrior during COVID. He's a lawyer. He was fighting for people's rights, for human rights, for frontline doctors, for freedom of speech, for on and on, and basically the only one going up against the big bad monster that wanted to silence and everyone, and we, everybody saw it and felt it to some degree. Well, this guy right here probably felt it the hardest and deepest. He took some slings and arrows. He and Donald Trump, taking slings and arrows for all of us. And so the work that you did, Tom, really changed the game. Really changed our quality of life in real time. I was just telling Mike, one of the things that you did was when they had COVID deaths, scrolling across every single news channel at all times and looking like a ticker, going like this, like the freaking lottery, or like you're at the casino. And because that's what they felt like it was, right? It was their casino.
Yep.
They're going, oh, look at how much money we are gonna make. We're making, and
So bad.
so it's so bad. And Tom made them legally. They had to change from deaths to cases. Is that right, Tom? Am I saying?
Well, we blew the whistle on what they were doing because they were misclassifying deaths. They had actually, going back 2020, and thanks for the intro, Cam, but back in 2020, they made a change to a document. It's called the Coroner's Handbook. And that document had been unchanged from the year 2003 up till 2020. There's no need to change it. But that's kind of the guidebook for how you determine cause of death. Well, in 2020, they changed it, but they changed it for one thing, right? So you'd think you'd find cause of death for everything the same way, right? But no, they changed it for one thing. That was COVID. And the changes they made literally were to increase the count of COVID deaths. It specifically said that. They actually, HHS actually put out a memo saying to people that were looking at deaths and that sort of stuff, saying that listen, if you call it a COVID death, it doesn't really matter what happened. We're not going to ask any questions. But if there's any way that you can call it a COVID death and you don't, we're going to investigate you. So you actually had the federal government telling these people, you're going to call it a COVID death or else. And if you remember going back to the summer of 2020, you'd hear things like, this guy got killed in a motorcycle accident, but they called it a COVID death, right?
Right.
So that was all done intentionally, and it was done because the federal government put out a memo, said this is what you're going to do. It was the most corrupt thing you ever seen. So yeah, we blew the whistle. We put all that out there. They moved to cases. Then we kind of blew the whistle on that because they had the PCR testing that they were doing wrong. They were running it at 40 cycles instead of 28, which are 25, 28, where they're supposed to be, which resulted in massive overdiagnosis. They changed the diagnostic protocols where for a while, anybody, if you so much as coughed in an area with what legally was called continuous ongoing COVID transmission, which was the whole country, you could be called a COVID case without anything more. So what they did is they would keep committing fraud over and over and over again. We'd keep catching them over and over and over again. And then they would, have to move and move and move. And it was a game of cat and mouse for quite a while. And meanwhile, we were hitting them in the courts and hitting them in the legislature and hitting them everywhere else. And it was a bear. It was a bear. But at the end of the day, unless you live in California, nobody's even talking about a mask anymore. And, we're a much freer place.
Well, from what I heard, they wanted us locked down for quite some time. Not, they wanted us masked up, 6 feet apart, everybody locked down, can't go back to work for a long time.
I don't think it would ever stopped if they could have. I mean, they would have did it as long as they could have. It was just, we fought back.
Yeah. Well, we saw a huge money transfer from the middle class, from the lower and middle class straight up to the upper class, all through that, the big box stores, just dominating. Obviously COVID it didn't exist in Walmart and
Oh,
Depot, and that's or if you were sitting down, that was
yeah.
the people in wheelchairs,
Well, you're pretty tall. It's only at a certain elevation.
all around. I was, yeah.
Yeah.
Licking handrails, man. I was trying to get it. I knew that my system, would just eat it up and make it into immunity for me. So I was licking knobs and handrails.
There you go. I was forgetting to wear my mask most of the time and touching and doing anything I could do. But we survived shockingly, and I did not end up hospitalized or dead, much like most of the people, because in reality, COVID was nothing more than a bad cold flu season. It was the reason we got the deaths was because one of miscategorization and misdiagnosis, and then two because if you went to the hospital, they murdered you. And we kind of laid that out pretty extensively. I mean, so I don't know if your listeners have seen this, but basically you go to the hospital and they would say, okay, you've got COVID. We're going to give you this drug to relax you. They give you like midlazepam. And here's the thing about this, right? So you've got a respiratory disease. Makes sure you're not breathing right, not getting as much oxygen as you should get. The one thing everybody knows, you never give someone with that a depressant because that's going to lower their oxygen further, right? But that's exactly what they did. And they give you midlazepam, something like that, a sedative. So and then what would happen then is they give you this, and then your oxygen levels would drop further. Well, frequently they would drop far enough then that they need to put, the cannules or some sort of forced air on you, right? Well, then they would run the cannules way, way too high and, beyond what was safe while giving you no nutrition, while keeping you sedentary, laying the wrong way, doing the wrong things, doing this, doing that, and keeping you on this drug and that drug, all these things that made you sicker. When you run forced air too high, it causes damage to your lungs. So instead of treating you, because they never treated the underlying disease, they didn't give you antibiotics, they didn't give you to prevent secondary infections, they didn't give you anything. They just said, oh, you're going to get COVID pneumonia and die, which was never true. I mean, pneumonia is pneumonia is pneumonia. There's always ways to treatment. They didn't do any of it. There was no steroids. There was no nothing. Eventually, they started giving steroids, but they started giving them at way too low a dose to be effective. So, anyways, didn't treat you, didn't feed you, didn't do anything. You got worse. They blasted your lungs, did damage, and eventually your O2 keeps going down until they have to put you on a respirator. Once you get on that respirator, they ran that at levels that were so unsafe it was ridiculous. Everybody knew it was unsafe. They blew out your lungs, and then you died. Meanwhile, they got bonuses when you got diagnosed with COVID. You got bonuses when they gave you remdesivir. You got bonuses when they put you on forced air, and then bonuses when you died. I mean, the whole thing, they paid you more and more and more and more every step of the way until you were dead, and then you couldn't sue them for murdering you, even though that's exactly what happened. All of this thanks to Obamacare. None of this could have happened without Obamacare. That's the one secret that nobody knows.
I forgot about Obamacare. I forgot about all of that.
Yeah. Well, here's the secret, right? The secret sauce. I mean, I guess people know because I've talked about it, but people say, well, how is it that every hospital in this country and every doctor in this country had the exact same protocol?
Yeah,
Right.
These are supposed to
Cookie
be
cutter.
these are supposed to be medical professionals. Don't they know that they were running the respirators at unsafe level? I mean, all
Yeah.
you just mentioned. I mean, didn't they learn that shit in school?
Isn't a doctor supposed to be able to be a doctor, or do they have to
No.
do exactly
No.
what the system tells them that
So
they
were
have to
being
do?
told to run this stuff.
They're medical slaves, essentially.
Yeah, so let me explain how that worked, right? So yes, they should have known that it was unsafe. I mean, this is like old school standardized protocols. You can just, I mean, there's all sorts of warnings. You can't run that. So your respiratory guys should have known that. But here's the deal. So Obamacare gave us electronic medical records and did away with private doctors. There were no individual, all doctors are part of a healthcare system except for a handful of them now. So that means that everybody's running through these big healthcare systems with the same EMR systems and, the same standards and all these different things. So then the hospital systems all had the same standard, which was rolled out from the CDC. And it was rolled out through the EMRs. As a doctor, when you go in now to see your doctor he sits there on his computer and they type and what they do, they put in your symptoms, they put in whatever. And then the computer says, oh, well, you probably have COVID or whatever, right? It says, here's what you do. And then it'll give you a list of things that you can do. And it may be tests, it may be treatments, it may be whatever. But the protocol is in the EMRs and you can't deviate from that. If you're the doctor and you want to deviate from that, you can override it. But if you do, you're going to have the administration up your rear. You're going to have to file days and days worth of paperwork. You got all these different things happening. And you're potentially going to be exposed to liability for malpractice and for the medical boards to come after you. Both of which happened during COVID.
Safe and doing wrong shit, but not for just doing right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to follow.
Yeah.
Sometimes the things that they do make about as much sense as wiping before you go to the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of a good description there. But it actually works really well if your goal is to kill a bunch of people and to prolong a pandemic and to scare people into taking a vaccine that's far, far, far more dangerous than the germ ever was. So you've got these EMRs structuring these things, and all the protocols are there. And any doctor that wasn't following it, they're going after him in the medical boards. They're going after him everywhere. I know because I defended him. And it was a disaster. So anyways, you got all this stuff going on. And, they're intentionally. And then, shortly thereafter, remdesivir comes out. Remdesivir had a 53% fatality rate in their initial trials. It was so bad they had to pull it because it was originally an Ebola treatment. But during the trials for Ebola, it killed so many people, they had to pull it off the market. So they pull it off the market, and then they dust it off when COVID hits so that they can give you and destroy your kidneys and create systemic organ failure and everything else. So between COVID, the respirators and everything, between remdesivir, the respirators, and the other protocols, they were killing people right and left. Well, you go to the hospital for a COVID diagnosis, you might as well call it a day. So this is all being ran through electronic medical records, thanks to Obamacare. And it was across the country. And yeah, there were doctors that recognized it and they ended up getting attacked. I helped a lot of them. Um, and there were a lot more I couldn't help. But it was a debacle from beginning to end, unless the goal was to scare people into taking a gene therapy injection, which we're now finding out did in fact modify your DNA most likely and did in fact cause turbo cancer most likely. All the things they said were conspiracy theories, but really weren't. And I think that was the goal.
Talking to those guys over in Invita that were boots on the ground, they are the best oncology in the country right now, and
Yep.
putting out numbers that are 30 times better than Mayo. And they said, they said when those jabs started coming out, they started seeing turbo cancer come back with a vengeance. People that had been in remission, they had beat their cancer, they
Yeah.
were good, and boom, within weeks, just their phone was ringing off the hook, and new aggressive cancers, brain
Yeah.
cancer, all kinds of things on top of the respiratory thing, stuff that, and the long COVID, that basically,
Which is really just you do know long COVID is just COVID vaccine injury.
yeah.
So what I saw, it was a video. It was a feed from Congress where I think it was Pfizer. I think it was the guy, the main guy from Pfizer, and he had to sit before Congress, and he finally admitted that it was gene therapy. So that
Oh.
yeah, that was real. That guy, of them finally admitting that this is gene therapy and not just some vaccine.
Well, one of the dirty secrets about that is they didn't really need to admit it because they'd already put it in their SEC filings as of, I think, 2019. I mean, they literally said, that one of the risks, and you can't lie in your SEC filings, you go to jail for that. So one of the risks that they identified for their companies, both Moderna and Pfizer, was that they're creating gene therapy products. So, nobody wants gene therapy products, and nobody did want gene therapy. Nobody should want gene therapy products now, but, they've lied about this since the beginning. It was always a lie.
What would be gene therapy for? I mean, why even? What's that even? What's the application for?
Well, gene therapy means the introduction of genetic material into your system for a therapeutic purpose, right? So the COVID jabs are supposedly comprised of mRNA, which they lied and told us was messenger RNA. Now, messenger RNA exists in every living organism on the planet. Messenger RNA is the stuff that goes from your DNA out into your cell, and then it carries messages, whatever it needs to carry. This was never messenger RNA. Pfizer and Moderna, I've got the screenshots, I've shared them, I blew the whistle on this a long time ago. They both admitted this was what's called mod RNA, which also starts with an M. But when you say mRNA is an acronym. It was thought to believe messenger RNA. Because it was convenient for Pfizer and Moderna to lie and defraud the public, they said mRNA, but it was actually mod RNA. Now, here's the difference.
Okay.
Your body produces mRNA, messenger RNA. Your body, every other living thing on the planet produces it. The stuff that they put in you was created in the lab. There's nothing natural about it. It was created in the lab to teach your body to create these artificial spikes that were also created in the lab. And the whole thing about it's very unnatural. So it wasn't messenger RNA, it was mod RNA. That means modified RNA that was created in the lab, and they then injected it into you. And they injected it with a whole bunch of nanotech, including lipid nanoparticles, to get it into your system and to get it to do certain things. So this garbage goes into your
Build real big, thick, fat blood clots that reach 3, 4, 5 feet long. And
yeah.
that's
That's
yeah.
been the thing. Everybody's coming up with just mad blood clots out there. I got a buddy who got the vaccines, and now he has to go like at least once a month. It might even be more frequent than that. And they're literally pulling out strings of blood clots out of his legs. They have to like drain the mess out of his legs. It's just not.
Yeah. Yeah, this was known, right? They actually listed it. So in October of 2020, the FDA had a meeting, as a verb pack meeting, and in that meeting, they literally had a sheet that they displayed on their slideshow that listed all the side effects that they expected. That included the blood clots and the heart attacks and the strokes and the cancer, and the death and the thrombocytopenia and the Guillain-Barré's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was all listed there. And they said, these are the things that we think are going to happen. But they're not side effects. They're serious adverse events of special interest. Now, I, I would love for one of you guys to explain to me if there are a list of expected effects from taking a drug that are not related to the intent or the goal of the drug, what would you call them if they're not side effects?
Right.
They seem like side effects to me, right? You take this; it's intended to stop the transmission of COVID. Which they, by the way, did you know that they admitted under oath that they never even tested to see whether or not these vaccines prevent the transmission of COVID? They were never.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
They're like, no, we didn't even really bother with that one.
We didn't.
Yeah.
America
Yeah.
needed us.
Well, remember when they told us that you had to take it so you didn't get grandma sick?
Right.
Well, except for they didn't bother to test to see whether if you took grandma could still get sick. It never, they weren't vaccines. They were gene therapies. They were modified genetic material that was put into you for what they claim was a therapeutic purpose, but it wasn't even for a therapeutic purpose because we now know that basically, and there's been peer-reviewed studies, the Cleveland Clinic did a number of these, but basically the more boosters you get, the more it destroys your immune system and the more likely you are to get COVID. So if you get this, if you got the COVID vaccine and got COVID 50 times since then, it's because you got the COVID vaccine. I did not get the COVID vaccine. I had COVID once early on and have never had an issue again and will never have an issue again. If you have got the vaccine though, and especially if you got boosters, you can expect to be having COVID for the rest of your life because you screwed your immune system.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a shame, but there are some protocols that can help, right? People should be being proactive now about what they can do. If you did, yeah, you messed up, they fooled you, you got duped, billions of people got duped, right?
Yep.
But what can we do now to get to be proactive, to help your cardiovascular system, to feed your immune system, to do what you can at this point,
Yeah. Is there any way we can get what was destroyed through the injections? Is there any way we can get our DNA repair, repair with that? I mean, because we've discussed this a couple of times on the show. Cameron with the Halo Wellness and his Halo machines with the frequency therapy that has just done miracles for me in my life. Is that something that can be applied on a frequency base to try to help repair and bridge the DNA back and maybe pull some of this stuff out? What modalities do you know of to include this one that can help the people that are listening that's had these jabs that can try to do their best to start reversing some of this?
Yeah, so that's a good news, bad news situation. Good news is, so one of the things that the jabs do is they train your body to create the spike protein, which is a pathogen. Now, here's the deal. Right now, we've got a number of experiments that have happened, a number of studies that have came out that has shown that, years later, you're still producing that spike. Now, theoretically, this stuff's supposed to go into your arm and then dissipate within a few days. You shouldn't still be seeing those elevated levels of the spike several years later, unless, and this is a hypothesis, but unless it integrated into your DNA. Now, reverse transcriptase is real, so it could and probably did. And I'm predicting you're going to see within the next 6 months pretty hard peer-reviewed proof evidence that this does in fact integrate into your DNA. Now, here's what that means.
It's such a hard word. You just say integrate, like this just kind of blends and marries. Or what? It's
Yeah.
nasty.
Yeah, so you were human with your human DNA, and then this foreign stuff that they created in the lab got into your DNA and changed it, and so you're just this much less human, maybe. Um, so sorry, I don't want to break that to anybody. I know that's harsh, but hey, it is what it is. So here's the
Well,
deal.
the same thing with plants, right? It is what it is. They genetically modify a plant. They make it not natural because you can't
Yeah.
anything that's natural. You can't patent regular natural broccoli but you can patent GMO
The
corn,
process.
and then you own it.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
there's a big ownership war going on.
Well, so with this, with the DNA and the gene therapies and all this stuff, the good news is if it did integrate in and your body's producing elevated levels of spikes, there are detoxes that you can use to limit and to reduce the presence of the spike in your blood. McCullough's got some stuff. There's a bunch of people got stuff out there. I don't know which one's best. I mean, but there are things that can reportedly temporarily lower the levels of the spike in your blood. The bad news is this. If it did integrate in like I think it did to your DNA, that means you changed your DNA. If that's what happened, no, there's nothing you can do about it because it's once, yeah, once you've modified that, the only thing that you could potentially do was find a way to reverse genetically engineer your DNA, and I don't know how you do that. I have no idea how you do that. No one's even close to. I don't even know that anybody's looking at it because once it's in there, when you modify your genes, your genetics, your DNA. I mean, that's kind of a permanent thing.
I mean,
Playing God.
so now your DNA's been changed. So you're going to wake up like a different race, different colored eyes. I mean,
Uh,
wiener somewhere. I mean, what?
well, probably not that much. Probably nothing that dramatic.
It's not going to work out.
But
I mean,
what you're going to do is wake up knowing that your body's going to potentially produce the spike protein internally for the rest of your life, or until if it wears off. But if it's integrated into your DNA, it may never wear off. We don't know. The thing about it is, though, is what all does that do, and what else? What does it change? Does it make it less likely that you're going to be able to have babies? Does it make it less likely that you're going to live shorter, that you're going to have cancer, that you're going to have? I mean, there's a lot of things, and no one really knows the answer because it wasn't actually properly studied, and it creates a whole lot of, well, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, if it's integrated like that, that's such a crazy word. Integrated into your DNA, and
It's a part of you.
that's what we transfer to our when we have kids. You know what I mean? The mom
Yep.
DNA, it's part of both, and you've got one that's a hybrid. What does that do? How does that affect? God dang, man. I guess that's. I mean, well, we're only like 5 years into
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
so
These
I
are going
guess
to be some big conversations here in the future. I
that's scary,
so
bro.
a lot of
That's
people have heard of CRISPR by now, and
Hmm.
they're modifying genes. They're creating
CRISPR.
CRISPR.
What is it?
Um,
Is it like a jab? Is it medication or what?
it's you know what, man? I don't even know exactly what the
Really?
process is. I don't know if they put it in a microwave and then you hit the start button, but it's called.
CRISPR is a gene editing technology. It's something that they use to essentially design and custom create and do gene editing.
Is that where we're getting the 6G? Because I'm seeing like some
6G is a different animal. So that's
the gene
these
therapy.
things, right? So these things are 5G right now.
Yeah.
5G is a communications protocol, right? So what 5G is the radio in this talks to a radio in the tower that connects it to the internet, that connects to this, that connects to that. All that communication, those are protocols, right? So a protocol in this situation is it's kind of like a language. This has to speak the same language as the tower. The tower's got to be able to communicate with everything. So it's making sure that all the hardware is talking the same language. so that it can pass the data back and forth, the internet data, whatever. So that 5G is a communications protocol, right? And there's all sorts of standards laid out within 5G. What is 5G? What does it mean? And so you have all these standards, and 4G, 5G. There will be 6G. It's not out yet. It's coming. It'll be but these are all communications protocol and standards around that communications protocol.
As it's, my phone has never gotten any faster from 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G. I've never noticed the dang difference.
I still get that pinwheel of death going, buffering.
I got the highest internet, and that's in the 5G, and it's all the same since it was no G. And then I'm sure I'm not the only one that heard like there was some nanotechnology in some of these the vaccinations and the G and the all of this crazy
so
stuff.
People are getting Wi-Fi signals from their body. Have you seen and heard of this, Tom? Where people are you're showing up on picking up all your Wi-Fi's in the local area, and Mike is showing up
in like an HTTPS.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, especially when they first had these vaccines coming out. There's a bunch of that stuff reported. And here's what we know for sure, and we can confirm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the magnetism has since been confirmed to be true in some instances. And here's the thing, though. We know that the different lots of the medication were different formulas. We don't know the details of it. We don't actually know what's in there because they lie all the time, so why would you ever trust them? But we do know that there were certain lots that came out where people would get the shot and they only could stick a key to their arm. And I know doctors who firsthand, witnessed this over and over. I mean, and it's since been confirmed that some of the lots had, magnetic properties. So this was a thing, right? They essentially the COVID vaccines were the biggest and were the largest, most comprehensive human experiment in history. Of course, all done without informed consent, violation of the Nuremberg Code. I mean, just horrific. Just literally, it is the definition of crimes against humanity.
Mm-hmm. So everybody got a good taste of what a veteran goes through when they go into the system at the VA. You just get hit with stuff that's all over the place and nobody really knows the exact extent of it, what's going to happen, but we'll find out.
Well, I mean, it just so happens that I did find out. One of the things I found out was I actually spoke down in Congress and I put my name on a declaration that I'd verified this. And what I said was that I had medical records of a soldier who during the year 2014 or 15 it had 5, I believe, different encounters. So 5 different medical records, 5 different, completely different, separate pieces of paper where he was brought in. And it says on each one of those 5 different pieces of paper, received Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. Now, how would that be possible in the mid-20 teens when it didn't exist? Except for this soldier's medical records show that he received it. So yeah, y'all are pincushions, y'all are experiments, and that is what they do to our military.
Yep. And the whole world, well, I don't know about the whole world, but United States, everybody got to feel what it's like to be a veteran for just for a couple years. Take this. We promise you it's good. You'll be all right.
It's going to keep you safe. Well, it was luckily not everybody. We were able to save a fair number of them. And, if you believe the official numbers, 20% of America did not get a single shot, which translates into between 60 and 65 million Americans. That is the definition of victory. And let me explain what I mean by that.
Right.
When we started, you got this whole conspiracy in place to try and force this on as many people as possible. I have a whistleblower document, one of them, and then some other data that we saw over time. The goal from what we've been able to snoop out was to get 95% vaccinated. That's because if 95% of the people are vaccinated, that's more than 9 out of 10 people. The one guy that isn't vaccinated isn't going to say anything. And the other nine are going to, if they're getting sick, you're not going to think anything of it because everybody's sick, right?
Right.
So what's going to happen then is then 5 years down the line, as everybody starts getting cancer and sick from this and sick from that, these guys can say, well, there's a new zoonotic disease and it's causing cancer and causing this and causing that. And what it really was the COVID jabs. But because we were able to get enough people to say no, we had a control group. This
Oh,
was the most important thing that happened because now you got 20% of Americans or more, and a huge percentage that only got one and regretted the one, that lost friends, lost jobs, lost family, lost loved ones, whatever. And they're saying, hey, I'm healthy. You're dying. Remember when you made fun of me? Remember when you fired me? Remember when you disowned me?
right.
Well, guess what? You're dying. I'm in good shape. Who's the idiot now, right? So you got people who stood strong through the biggest, most brutal PR push and just everything they could to try and force us to do this in history. And we were able to manage saying no. Yeah, there's the man. There's one of them, right? People that were able to manage to stay strong and say hell no on this. So those people, they ain't going to forget, right? They're not going to forget. They're not going to let anybody else forget. So now what's happening is as time goes on and as the people who were, attacked on this and people who were told, hey, you're a bad doctor, you're a bad this, you're a bad that. Well, they're not only not forgetting, they're still working on this. And so now you've got a completely healthy control group versus a huge group of people that are sick and dying with all sorts of random new diseases, and only one difference. Some of them
Right.
got these poison mod RNA jabs. Well, that's not going to be overlooked. So we get the long-term win on this. The question is just, when and how long does it take? And sadly, how many people do we lose on the way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And and for people that are listening to this, I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, so now what do I do? And if you live here in Arizona, this guy right here, get over to Halo and get some of those therapies. I've seen that stuff. I've seen it pull some gnarly stuff out of people. I've seen the pictures of like the pads that you put like right over the injection sites coming out just black and in some cases blue. And this dude's got some crazy stories of some of the people that he's treated from the COVID jabs with the frequency therapies that just really detoxing people with whatever is in these. Because like you said, you don't know what you got because different lots had different stuff in it. So you
Right.
don't know if you got the metal one or, just because a key doesn't stick to your arm doesn't mean you're going to be all right.
They did
No.
the different tests. They were
Yeah.
testing to see how many people would be compliant. They were testing, they were given control groups. They were, they said that some of them were saline. So those that, you know, I guarantee all the people that on TV that were, parading around, oh, I'm getting my, today, those, they weren't getting the things that
Well,
gave my buddy a blood clot from here to here in his lungs. They didn't get that version. So
well,
there was a little bit of Russian roulette in there.
Propaganda using.
Yeah.
we can confirm it because we know that in France they got caught. The politicians in France were getting placebos, they were getting saline, whereas the people were getting the poison. I wonder why that would be.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
Man,
So they caught him. They actually caught him officially in France, huh?
Yeah, they caught him, and it was an interesting thing because, so at the height of this, I was coordinating with lawyers and people, doctors all over the planet, and we would hear things and see things all over, but different countries responded differently, but it was all, those protocols and those things that they were doing were largely unchanged globally, everywhere that they could implement them. And we learned different things from different countries. But yeah, France was the one place I know for sure that they got caught giving their politicians placebo, whereas we the people are all being murdered with these poisons.
Yeah.
Tom,
Uh,
there's so many people that have passed the bar, and there's probably not all of them. I know they all don't have the same type of knowledge that you have and wisdom that you have from over the years. But honestly, man, with as many people or that you share this type of knowledge with, and you're like the only one that stood up to big pharma and the government and to start making this change. And it just begs the question: what the hell happened on your end, was to make you finally, to stand up and start this fight with the biggest, strongest country in the world? I mean, 'cause
God,
people that just rolled over, they just didn't say anything when they knew it was wrong, and here you are. So what was it that made you stand up to everybody and start bringing this to the light and start blowing the whistle and everything?
God. So going back, so I've never had much interest in the health sciences. Just
Okay.
not something overly. I mean, I love working out and I love everything related to that, but like medical health science was just never something that's super interesting to me. But going back to law school, I ended up coming up with some creative ideas and doing some things. I had a fellowship in law school related to health law, which I went there for international law and was into human rights, international law. So I was surprised that happened. But I wasn't super interested, so I finished that and go on to other things. And years later, I've done all these different things, and I decided, hey, I'm going to do a master's. I'm going to get another master's degree because why not, right? And so I go to sign up, and I'm going to sign up for master's in education. And I'm getting ready. I'm going to open up a quiet little law practice where I can do quiet little things, watch my kids grow up. And then I'm gonna get another master's, and I'm gonna do a master's in education because I love kids, and I want to be able to do work to try and help and protect kids. So I want to do a master's in education with my law, and so I make my practice about that. And the day I went to sign up for the master's program, for no reason that I could explain to today, instead of hitting master's in education, I clicked master's in health science. I don't know why. Really have no idea why. So I'm doing masters in health. God. Yeah, yeah. So God. And so I'm doing masters in health. And you fast forward to around the end of 2019, early 2020, and you see this disease kind of hitting the news. Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot of like newsworthy, pop culture type stuff going on in that field. So when you see that, you look at it and you write about it, right? So I start looking at COVID the day it hits the news, and I start writing about it. I'm, looking at biostats and epidemiology and evidence-based practice, all the things that you look at in this master's program. And I'm looking at the data and the official data. And then I'm listening to the news. I'm looking at the official data and I'm listening to the government spokesman on the news. And there's an issue because when I look at the actual data, it says one thing. When I listen to Tony Fauci on the news, all I hear is bullshit. I mean, from beginning to end. Like nothing he's saying is supported by science. And so I'm like, okay, maybe this guy's way smarter than me. Maybe I'm just looking at it wrong. So I look more. Nope, can't find anything wrong. Go back, I listen again. Did I miss something? Nope. Okay, let's go back to the data again. Did I miss something? Nope. Over and over. So for months, I'm looking at this. I'm trying to figure out, am I making a mistake? Am I making an error? Meanwhile, everything I'm turning in the class is, I'm writing about this, and teachers all give me, 100% grades, and I'm doing, great in my master's program. But I can't find anything wrong. Everything I'm doing is right, but it's completely different than what they're saying on the news. So I finally realized, wait a second, it's not that I'm wrong. They're just full of shit. And so I'm seeing this build up. And I think in early March of 2020, I wrote a little blog that I don't think anybody ever saw because I'm nobody from a little town in Ohio and nobody knew my name. And I talked about, this is getting kind of crazy. It looks like, this is going to end up where they're going to try and take our freedom away over a cold.
Hmm.
Well, then we had lockdowns, and they locked us down, and I hit the roof. And I sat in this chair, and I've told this story a million times now. And I put my head in my hands, and I prayed. And I said, God, I feel like you want me to fight this. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I got no money. I got no contacts. I got no way to do it. But if you put it before me, I'll fight it. And I'll do my best to do it your way. And then I said the dumbest thing I ever said. I said, I promise. And I don't say I promise unless I mean it. And I knew you're not supposed to make a promise to God because he said in the good book, he said, you can't change the color of a single strand of hair on your head. Who are you to promise? And I knew what I was doing. And I knew that meant he was going to ask a hell of a lot more of me than what I thought or what I could see. And I knew I was going to, but I just felt this fire burning in my gut. And I just felt like, and if you know me as a person, man, I get fired up. I got to punch something. I get wound up, and man, I just felt it. And so I promised God that I'd fight it. And I I have for 5.5 years now. I've not stopped fighting, and I've fought it with as much integrity as I could. As a human being, I've broken. I've not been as good a man as I could have been. I've not been as good a person as I could have been, but I did not deviate from that promise. I've never fought. My work has always been with integrity. I've never the integrity, the truth, the foundation of what I've done has always been spot on. And to this day, it won't change. And it ended up that the promise that I was making was a lot bigger than what I realized. We're 5.5 years in. It turns out that promise that you put it in front of me and I'll fight it promise, well, I didn't know what it was. Turns out it was tied to a whole huge scheme and all the stuff we're seeing right now, the AI takeover of our planet, the new generation of mRNA poisons, the universal basic vaccine platform, all these different things that we're seeing now that are moving ahead full speed, they were all tied to this. So I'm still under that promise. I got a lot more fighting to do, and I don't get to stop till I've won or till God tells me I'm done or I'm taken off the battlefield. I don't intend to be drug off the battlefield anytime soon. Don't look like I'm going to win anytime soon. So I get a break when the big man says I get one. Outside of that, we just keep going.
Well, this country owes you a debt of gratitude. Its people owe you a debt of gratitude for you fighting and continuing to fight.
My man.
Guys, Tom is a warrior in every aspect of the word, and he has fought for you, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not. He has fought for you, and and he's continuing to fight for us and for our sovereignty, over our bodies, and over what they can push into you, and tell you that you gotta put this or that into your body. What happened? What happened to my body, my choice? You know what I'm talking about?
Man, I sure the hell do.
And so, Tom,
you get that if you want to murder a baby,
right?
Wait, what?
Right,
what?
right. Yeah, they forget all about that, right?
Oh,
yeah. But Tom, where can people donate to your cause, to fighting this good fight, that needs to be fought, and Tom is he's the guy fighting for you.
Whatever it might be, how does somebody get to Tom to help you with what you're doing?
Well, the website is tomrenz.com. We got our own show. We run on Rumble. We run on X. We run on Facebook. The tomrenz.com, TOMRENZ.com. You have to actually type tomrenz.com. If you search Tom Renz, you will find a whole bunch of hit pieces on me. What you will not find is anything related to, anything. You won't find me. You won't find tomrenz.com. So tomrenz.com. Also, givesendgo.com/RenzLaw. Givesendgo.com/RenzLaw. Listen, anything anybody can give, we're grateful for. I'm honored to fight. I'll keep fighting. I'll do whatever I can for as long as I can do it until my promise is fulfilled or I can't fight anymore. So, um, that's it. That's where I'm at.